This is a review of the Flavor Equation, The Science of Great Cooking Explained. It's by Nik Sharma, who's a South Asian American gay man. He does talk about his husband in this book. And it's full of so much great information, like even on the end papers, how to make nut or seed butter, and at the back, 3 ways to use and develop flavor in unsweetened coconut. So the science of cooking as well as recipes. Now, Nik Sharma is a recipe developer and he's a photographer as well. And he did the photos in this book. It's very attractive, as you will see when I go through. I heard about this book because Nik Sharma was a guest on the podcast, The Splendid Table. And I'm always interested in what makes a recipe work. So he does talk about flavor. This is a quote. "Flavor is much more than a distinctive smell or taste. It involves our emotions and sometimes memories, intertwined with our sense of the sounds, colors, shapes, and textures of our foods." So, talking about texture, that's his, mouthfeel, crispness, smoothness. It reminded me of when I was traveling in Japan with my friend Kathy. She did not like this mashed tofu salad that we had several times. It's called shirae. And she didn't like it because it had the texture of mayonnaise. Didn't taste at all like mayonnaise, but yeah, it was a texture thing for her. So one of the things about texture is if you have a thicker sauce, it's going to linger longer on your palate, and so that will increase the time you have to experience the full flavor. Here we have instructions for making your own flavoring extracts, which I do already. Talks about how taste buds work. So there's the salt, sour, sweet, bitter, and umami tastes, and there's more, you will see. How a recipe works. So one of the tastes is sourness, which in this book is called brightness. I made 1 or 2 recipes from every section of this book. I will tell you about them as I get to them. And one of them was this roasted cauliflower in turmeric kefir, although I did it with roasted broccoli instead. Yummy. And this is a roasted butternut squash soup with pomegranate molasses in it. And a very nice addition. I'd never thought of putting pomegranate molasses in soup. I will do it again. Bitterness section, one of the ideas that he has is to use ground or powdered forms of cocoa or coffee in salads, which I might try. I'm not sure. It's a little out there for me. This spiced coffee kulfi, I made a note of it to try it sometime, maybe in the summer. I like the way that he used different sizes of containers for individual portions of this dessert. I made the chocolate miso bread pudding yesterday to use up some Easter bread that was going stale. Oh, yummy. There's the saltiness chapter. So one of the things that he says about salt is that if you put salt in a fragrant rice like basmati, then you won't get as much flavor. And so I usually cook my rice with salt, and so I tried it without, and I didn't notice any difference at all. If you have thoughts on this, please tell me in the comments below. In the sweetness chapter, one of the things I had never heard of was this berry from West Africa called the miracle berry. And there's a protein in it called miraculin that can make our taste buds taste sweet things that aren't sweet, like chew on one of these berries and then have a slice of lemon and it will taste sweet, which does sound kind of like a miracle. I did make this garlic and mint tahini. I didn't make the crispy carrots, but I put it on roast sweet potato. I loved it. And this raspberry and stone fruit crisp. I didn't try the recipe, but it's the method that I think I might try in the future. So what he does is he roasts the fruit in a pan separately from the topping. The oatmeal crisp topping is in another pan, also roasted, and then when it's time to serve, you put the two together, and with ice cream if you want. So that's a bit different. It also talks about how sweet food tastes sweeter when it's warm. So temperature affects our taste buds. Some marshmallows, honeycomb candy. This Faluda ice cream I want to try as well. So he says traditionally it would be made with sweet basil seeds, but he says to use chia seeds instead. I'm glad there's a substitute because I don't know where I would get sweet basil seeds. I mean the kind that you get in a package for growing in your garden have got about like 10 seeds inside, so I wouldn't want to use those. Not to mention packaged garden seeds can, they might have fungicides or, different chemicals on them that they're not necessarily good for eating. That's off on a tangent. The savoriness chapter. So this is umami. And a tip for me is that you can add a little bit of green tea to vegetable broth to add umami. There's a amino acid, theanine and glutamate, that are both in green tea but are not in the black tea, which is a fermented leaf. I did make the chickpea pancakes. Those are good. I did take note that there's a couple recipes for cabbage as a side dish. So a pretty simple dish. This one is stir-fried. I think the other one is with coconut. It's kind of unusual to see cabbage on its own. But good idea. Now, many of these recipes are meaty, and I'm vegetarian, so I didn't pay too much attention to those. Fieriness. Now, this is not a official taste. It's a sensation of heat. It's our pain reaction, actually. He talks about different pepper varieties here, including kubeb and long pepper. He mentions that long pepper is used in a couple of his recipes, and one of them is the gingerbread cake. But actually in the gingerbread cake recipe itself, that long pepper is nowhere to be seen. It's just the regular peppercorns. I don't know where I would get long pepper anyway. This book did help me figure out the difference between Sichuan peppercorns and pink peppercorns, which are entirely different. It's good to know. I don't normally cook with those, and so that was a good information for me. There's a hibiscus refresher drink that's made with long pepper. And here's the gingerbread cake. It's got date syrup bourbon sauce, which was also really good. And the cake was fantastic. Oh, I just loved it. I will make it again. It's got a teaspoon of ground black pepper in it and a tablespoon of ground ginger, as well as 55 grams of chopped crystallized ginger. I just should mention that there's both imperial and metric measurements in this cookbook. Richness. Okay, so now we're talking about fat, and now this is not currently considered an official taste, one of the canonical tastes. However, scientists have data that identifies it as that we have potential taste receptors for fat. And so they're saying that it might be, in the future we might be calling it a canonical taste called oleogustus. Talks about canola oil in here. And I am one of those people who find canola oil very fishy tasting. I avoid it whenever possible. And let me know if you're one of those too. Solidarity with canola haters. He does talk about why, where that fishy taste comes from, by the way. And this roasted eggplant raita with the tadka on it, that's the spiced oil. Oh, that was so yummy. I really like that. There's the other cabbage dish. And dal makhni. Now, this is the dal that I get when I go out to eat, as opposed to making at home. I make a different kind of red lentil dal at home. But now I know what the trick is. So, number one, there's cream in it to make it really rich. And number two, there's a smokiness. So to do it the traditional way, you either put a little metal bowl floated on top your dal, and then put a piece of burning charcoal in it, and then put the lid on so the smoke infuses your lentils. I wasn't about to light anything on fire, but I got the idea to add some liquid smoke to my dal, and I really like that. Explains how to make paratas. This chicken coconut curry, I did it with tofu, and medium successful. There's Nick. And we're at the end, into the pantry essentials. I did make his version of the Shahi Garam Masala. Left out the star anise. I put in allspice berries instead, because that is one spice I do not like, and I don't know why. I like fennel, I like anise, I like licorice. I do not like star anise. Good thing about making your own spice mixes. Adjust it to your own tastes. He talks about toum, which is a Lebanese garlic sauce. And that reminds me that he talks about emulsifiers. So in Tomb, the pectin in garlic is actually the emulsifier that keeps the water and the olive oil blended into an emulsion. And in vinaigrettes, if you put a little bit of mustard, the mustard acts as an emulsifier. He also talks about mayonnaise and how, or the reason why the bitterness in olive oil can come out more strongly when you make mayonnaise. So there is so much great stuff in this book. Make your own date syrup. So if it's not available in your local stores, make your own. And then there's more scientific information at the back. Making cheese making. Oh, great book. That was The Flavor Equation. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know if you want to see more of these individual cookbook reviews. Thanks.